Imagine for a second that you're trying to bake a cake. But this isn't a normal cake. The recipe calls for a cup of ancient Taoist philosophy, a tablespoon of Christian theology, a pinch of alien conspiracy theory, and just for flavor, a direct quote from Mao Zedong.
And don't forget the secret ingredient.
Oh, right. The cake is also a hologram.
That is
Yeah.
a pretty wild metaphor. But honestly, it's not that far off from what we're unpacking today. It's messy, it's complex, but it definitely has a distinct flavor.
It really does. We're doing a deep dive into this fascinating and, I mean, incredibly specific worldview called Life Genuine.
Right. And our source material is basically a stack of essays and Q&A sessions from this figure named Hunden Celestial, who also goes by Swifeng. And this stuff all dates back to around 2006.
And the ambition here is just staggering. I mean, looking through this, it's a lot.
It is. It's a dense syncretic system.
Yeah.
And when I say syncretic, I mean the author is really trying to merge Buddhism, Christianity, Taoism, and even modern science into a single unified theory of everything.
And we are not just talking about small questions here. The mission is huge. It's rewriting the origin of the universe, explaining what dreams actually are, and figuring out the bureaucratic difference between a ghost, a god, and an alien.
Exactly. But I have to give a little listener prep here. If you're familiar with traditional Taoism or Christianity, you kind of need to set those definitions aside for a moment.
Yeah, you really do.
This source material takes familiar terms and just rotates them about 90 degrees. The author calls it a holographic view of the universe.
Yeah.
You have to look at it from a completely different angle to see the image clearly.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. The best place to start is, well, the beginning. Literally, the origin of everything.
So, Laozi, the Tao Te Ching.
Right. The famous formula, Tao gives birth to one, one gives birth to two, two gives birth to three. The foundation of Taoist cosmology.
It is. Usually Tao is the ultimate source, the void from which everything just springs. But this is where it gets really interesting. Hunden Celestial, our author, just bluntly states that Laozi was confused.
Confused. Wow. That takes some serious confidence, telling the founder of Taoism he got the math wrong. So what's the critique?
The source argues that Laozi didn't understand the true hierarchy. In the Life Genuine system, the Tao is not the top of the pyramid, the greatest creator is.
So there's a personified God above the concept of the Tao.
Precisely. The argument is you can't have law without a lawmaker. The analogy the source uses is actually really helpful. Think of the greatest creator as a government.
Okay.
Then the Tao is like the constitution or the set of laws for that society.
Oh, I see. A constitution doesn't write itself. It needs a will, a society, a government to bring it into existence. So the laws, the Tao, can't exist without the authority, the creator.
The creator comes first. So in this new cosmic math, the greatest creator is at position 0. Then the Tao, which is described as the creator's spirit or thinking, is the 1.
Okay, creator is 0, Tao is 1. Then Laozi says 1 gives birth to 2. In traditional Taoism, that's yin and yang, but I'm guessing it's not that here.
Not at all. This is a major pivot point, and it's where the syncretism really kicks in. The two aren't just abstract forces. They're identified explicitly as Jesus and Satan.
Wait, what? Jesus and Satan are the two,
Yeah.
two sides of the same coin.
That's exactly how the source presents it. It calls them the Taiji, the unity of opposites. The argument is that for the universe to work, you need dynamic tension. You need the positive and the negative. So in this view, Jesus and Satan are, well, they're structurally necessary to each other.
That completely recontextualizes the whole idea of good versus evil. It's not a war, it's more like a collaborative project, a good cop, bad cop routine for the whole universe.
That's a great way to put it. And then the formula continues. 2 gives birth to 3.
And the 3 would be,
Jesus, Satan, and the angels.
and from that trio, we get everything else, all life on Earth.
That's the claim. The text is very clear that humans were created by this 3. It even references Genesis, where God says, "Let us make man in our image." The source really grabs onto that plural us.
And us means the angels.
Right. And this is where the sci-fi element starts to blend in. The source explicitly addresses the ancient astronaut idea. It says, some people say humans were created by extraterrestrials. This is true, provided you define angels as extraterrestrials.
So an angel in the Bible and a gray alien and a UFO are just two different words for the same thing.
Exactly. It just collapses the distinction. Theology, ufology, it's all part of the same cosmic administrative structure. The angels are the workforce.
So we have this whole structure established. God, then Jesus and Satan, then the angels or aliens, then us. But where do we actually fit into all this? I mean, reality's a lot bigger than just Earth, right?
Much, much bigger.
Hmm.
This brings us to what the source calls the geography of reality. The author claims, and he attributes this to Shakyamuni Buddha, that there are 36 dimensional spaces.
36. That's so specific. Not infinite, not a multiverse, just
Yeah.
36 layers.
And very strictly defined. And this connects directly to one of the most fascinating parts of this whole system, the explanation of dreams.
Okay, I love this part. Because usually we think of dreams as, just neurons firing, brain static, maybe some Freudian stuff.
Well, the Life Genuine view is completely opposed to that. The source states very clearly, dreams can never be imagined out of nothing. It argues dreams are real experiences happening in what it calls the negative universe.
A negative universe. That sounds ominous, like upside down or something.
It does, but it doesn't mean evil. Think of it more like a photographic negative. It's the non-material counterpart to our material world. It's one of those 36 dimensions. And when you sleep, your consciousness actually travels there.
And the author uses this letter from a reader, a Mr. Lai, to illustrate this. And this case study, it really grounds the whole theory.
Right, Mr. Lay. He writes in saying, hey, I keep dreaming of flying on cranes, seeing dragons and phoenixes, and I'm just chatting with the Jade Emperor. And he's totally confused. He knows dragons aren't, biologically real, but the experience is so vivid.
So what's the diagnosis?
Well, Hunden Celestial doesn't say you have an active imagination. He tells Mr. Lai, you were likely a Buddha or a celestial being in a past life.
So the dreams are actually memories.
Or current realities. The idea is that Mr. Lai's spiritual root comes from these higher dimensions, the Elysium world, or the 10,000-year world. He's basically dreaming of home.
But wait, that raises a pretty uncomfortable question. If he's from the Elysium world, what's he doing here on Earth?
The source gives two possibilities. One, he was sent on a mission. Or two, he violated heavenly law and was demoted.
Demoted to Earth. Ouch! That frames our whole existence as either a job or a punishment.
It definitely creates a ladder of existence. But this leads to the ultimate goal of the Life Genuine philosophy, which the author calls harvesting ripe crops.
Which, again, sounds a little bit like sci-fi horror. Are we food?
No. In context, it's about salvation. The mission is to find these fallen celestial beings, people like Mr. Lai, and help them get back to the Elysium world before a great adjustment of the universe happens.
So it's a rescue mission. Harvesting just means finding the people who are ready to go back up the ladder.
Precisely. A rescue mission for souls who don't belong here.
Okay, so we've got these celestial beings who are basically high-level angels or aliens, but the source gives us a whole taxonomy of other things. It's like a field guide to the spirit world.
It really is. And the first thing the source does is clean house with mythology. Remember, this is strict monotheism. There's only one greatest creator.
So what happens to Zeus? Or Apollo, Shiva, Mazu? Are they just fake?
No, not fake, just reclassified. The source says all these figures, Zeus, Brahma, the Jade Emperor, they're real, but they're not gods, they're angels.
Middle management.
You could say that. We should respect them, but not worship them. But then we get into the lower entities, and this is where the distinction between a ghost and a Yao becomes really important.
Yeah, I've always kind of used those words interchangeably, but here, a ghost is very specifically a human soul, right?
Yes, a ghost is a human who has died but hasn't moved on. They're stuck in this marginal space between worlds.
And the source lists some really specific causes for this. I remember one was obsessive researchers.
That stood out to me too. The idea is that if you're so obsessed with a problem or an attachment when you die, your spirit just gets stuck. It doesn't realize it's dead. And to prove this, the source tells this wild story about Charles Coughlin.
Oh, the actor. This story is nuts.
It is. He's an American actor, dies in Galveston, Texas in 1899. A year later, a huge hurricane hits, and the cemetery just gets washed into the ocean.
And the coffin is gone.
For 28 years. The source claims it drifted 3,000 kilometers until it washed up on the shore of Prince Edward Island in Canada, which just happened to be near his childhood home.
And the author uses this as proof that the spirit was steering the coffin.
Exactly. He argues that ocean currents alone can't explain that. It's evidence of a pitiful soul trying to get home. That's a ghost. But a Yao, a demon or a monster, is totally different.
Right, a Yao is not a dead human.
No, a Yao is a plant, an animal, or even a stone that has absorbed enough spiritual energy to transform into something else.
So like a fox spirit or a tree demon from mythology?
Yes. But the key difference is behavior. Celestial beings follow laws. Yao are unruly. They cause trouble.
And this all leads to possession. The source gets very practical about how this works.
It's all based on resonance. The catchphrase is, butterflies gather where fragrance spreads. Flies gather where stench prevails.
So if you get possessed, it's because you were metaphorically stinky.
Basically, yeah. If your mental frequency is low, if you're obsessed with superstition or fear, you're just inviting these things in. The source is clear. The greatest creator never possesses anyone.
And here's where it gets really unexpected. To explain how to prevent this, the author brings up Mao Zedong.
This is such a fascinating moment. It blends the spiritual and the political in a way you just don't see. The author claims that during the Maoist era in China, possession phenomena were extremely rare.
And just to be very clear here, we're not taking any sides on political history. We're just reporting what the source says. And usually, a religious text would view an atheistic regime as, dark or godless.
Right. But this source completely flips that. The argument is that Mao's intense focus on materialist education and smashing superstitions acted like a ghost repellent.
So by teaching people ghosts aren't real, he made them powerless.
It's about that belief. Because a population was focused on materialism, on righteous energy, the Yao and ghosts had nowhere to land. They couldn't resonate.
So paradoxically, being a staunch atheist is better protection from evil spirits than being a fearful believer.
In this worldview, yes. Fear opens the door. Materialist confidence closes it. The source even suggests a cure for possession that's a mix of spiritual reverence and, well, going to a psychiatrist and learning science.
That brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. We've talked about gods and ghosts, but we have to talk about science, because this source does something really different with it.
It really does. It introduces this concept of heavenly mysteries. Now, usually that sounds like some secret magic spell.
Something you can't possibly understand.
But Hunden Celestial says, no. Heavenly mysteries are just the laws of the universe. Gravity, that's a heavenly mystery. Buoyancy, heavenly mystery. E equals mc squared, that's a heavenly mystery.
So scientists are actually
Theologians, they're decoding the Creator's programming. The source basically says, if you want to understand God, don't just read a holy book, go study physics.
But there's a catch, isn't there? The laws aren't the same for everyone. There's a relativity of law.
This is a crucial concept. What counts as a heavenly law depends on where you are in the hierarchy.
Give me an example.
Okay, so take human law, our criminal code. To us, it's just law. But to an animal, like a cow or a dog, human law functions as a heavenly law. It's an imposition from a higher power that dictates their entire life.
Right. The dog doesn't know why the fence is there, but that fence is the will of a higher being.
Exactly. And in the same way, the laws of the Elysium world are heavenly laws to us. We're the dogs in that comparison.
So if you break human law, you go to jail. If you break heavenly law,
you get demoted. The text brings up the mythological figure Marshall Tianping.
the character who becomes the pig in Journey to the West.
Right. In the story, he's a high-ranking deity, but he gets drunk, acts inappropriately with the moon goddess Chanji.
A bit of celestial office harassment.
Basically. And for breaking the code of that higher dimension, he's cast down to Earth and reincarnated as a pig.
Which just reinforces that idea of Earth as a penal colony, a lower tier.
It's all a ladder. You can climb up to the Elysium world, or you can slide down to the animal world, or become a ghost by violating these laws.
So what does this all mean? We have a universe where Jesus and Satan are partners, aliens are angels, Mao Zedong exercised ghosts with materialism, and gravity is a divine secret.
It's a holographic worldview. That's the key. It tries to flatten the distinctions we make between religion, science, and history. They aren't separate subjects. They're just descriptions of different layers of the same 36-dimensional reality.
It is a lot to take in, and the source ends with a bit of a warning, doesn't it? Something about the year 2013.
It does. And the warning isn't just a doomsday date. It's about overdosing on truth. The author says some heavenly mysteries shouldn't be revealed casually. He compares truth to medicine. The right dose cures, but an overdose can endanger the mind.
Which is a fair warning when you're telling people their dreams are interdimensional travel logs.
It suggests that, maybe a bit of ignorance is necessary to function. If you're constantly aware of all 36 dimensions, you might not be able to function in this one.
So we'll leave you with this to mull over. Tonight, when you go to sleep and you start dreaming, ask yourself, is your brain just filing away spreadsheets? Or did you just punch a ticket to the negative universe?
And if you happen to see a dragon, maybe check if you have any unfulfilled missions from a past life.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Sleep tight.